Yeah, I don't have anything to add to it. So if you're ready to go to your next one, Angelo, go ahead.
Yes.
Oh boy.
So, my next one is the Hornets. And I'm not going to lie to you, I have a decent amount of numbers since MJ took over the Hornets. And I did not expect the take that I ended up with. But did you know that since MJ has taken over the Hornets, they have only hired 2 head coaches?
I did not know that.
Steve Clifford and what's the other one's name?
Starts with a V. I don't have the names in front of me. But I actually think that is solid, consistent. Because here's the thing: I don't necessarily think I'm not a big coaches matter, coaches matter. You need to keep cheering until you find the right one. I think it's better to keep someone in there, and only in instances where your players you lose the locker room, or extreme examples is when I think you should hire a new coach. MJ and his staff has been fairly consistent, and even though they've been fairly consistent, they have 2 playoff appearances since he's took over. Both of them were losses in the first round. He has 3 years, 3 seasons where the Hornets were above 500, and they've only drafted 2 stars and I'm calling stars Kemba and now LaMelo. The Hornets need to draft and develop better. That's just the end of it. No one's coming to Charlotte. Let's be real. No one's coming to Charlotte. So they have the structure there. They have the consistency there. They just need to get players and develop players to then build around LaMelo, because LaMelo is a good player. He's going to be a star if he's not already a star. And I just don't see the path forward for... I mean, this is good for the Hornets that LaMelo is missing so much, because they're going to get a higher draft pick, going to get someone to surround LaMelo with. But really what they need is they need to draft better, they need to develop better. Because what I've seen with the consistency MJ has had is not reflecting the results.
So
Go ahead.
I have an interesting stat for you.
Okay.
So
hit me, stat man.
So this is part of what I'm going to go into. So out of all the coaches in the NBA history, any who were players who made the Hall of Fame, right?
Yep.
They have won a total of 8 championships. Every player that's ever made the Hall of Fame that became a coach combined has won 8 championships. As I'm looking down the list of Hall of Fame players that became coaches, very few of, Casey Jones had a positive record, he won rings. Bill Russell had a positive record, he won rings.
Yep.
But Dick McGuire, negative record. Isaiah Thomas, negative record. Jason Kidd, negative record. Larry Bird had a positive record.
Okay.
I think there's this thing where when you have a superstar player or a legend player or a Hall of Fame player, they're not seeing the game in the same way. I know you don't think coaches are as important, but we'll cover that a different time.
Yeah.
I think there's a correlation between a student of the game and a talent of the game. Not a correlation. I think there's a difference between a student of the game and a talent of the game.
Okay.
I go back to the Boston Celtics. I can't remember if it was the playoffs. It was back during the KG Paul Pierce era.
Okay.
And the Celtics were down by 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember if the game went to overtime or if it was a game winner. Doc Rivers was the coach at the time, pulled everyone over. They're going through the play. He's drawing it up. The inbound comes in. On that team, you have Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen.
Yep.
It's a buzzer-beating opportunity. You have
Yep.
Ray Allen on the floor, and do you know who took the last shot?
Rondo.
Rajon Rondo.
Yep.
Alley-oop to Rondo. Not an alley-oop to KG. Not a corner three to Paul Pierce or Ray Allen. It was a layup to Rondo. I think a student of the game who sees the game as it is versus a player who's naturally talented, and I hate saying naturally talented because it kind of invalidates the work these guys put in, because Michael Jordan isn't the best because he was born the best. Michael Jordan is the best because he became the best. But when you're that good, I think you lose a bit of appreciation for the basics of the game, and you don't see it, and you expect people to be able to do those things at the level you did. And I think that's why a lot of the times when those Hall of Fame players become coaches, they don't have the same success. And I think that's the same problem with Hall of Fame players becoming owners or general managers. And I think there's an appeal to the flash because they see the highlight reels and they see the college awards and the high school awards, and they correlate that to winning.
So, timeout. So then, do you believe then that obviously MJ has been in these rooms. Do you think MJ has had a huge part to do in the Hornets' failures to draft players?
Yes.
You do? Okay.
And give me 1 second, because I'll have to find it, so keep talking, but there is an example I can use. I just have to remember when it was.
I honestly think for the Hornets, their Christmas list needs to just be fire Michael Jordan. Like, even though he's the owner.
Fire Michael Jordan?
He is the Michael Jordan of bad owners.
But here's the thing. I can at least appreciate that he has had consistency with the coaching. So maybe he is to blame for the player drafting and potentially partially for the player development. But that system, from the outside looking in, is a system that you can build because it has consistency. It has structure to it. At least it appears it does. And you think Michael Jordan's ego, and he's like, I'm going to find the best player in this draft. You think that's been overriding the GM? And
I don't think Michael Jordan is looking at the best player in the draft. That's the issue.
Okay.
I think he's looking at what would work in college and what worked when he was on the court.
Right.
And he doesn't
have...
That's
kind of the point I'm making.
Yeah, he doesn't have him on the court. So he can't. He's trying to draft for what he would have liked to have without having him.
I can't find it, but there is an example out there of an ownership group wanting to draft a player who ended up not amounting to much, and then MJ wanting to draft a player that ended up not amounting to much, so he was pushing a decision. But I just don't think that... I think when you have a guy like that we all know, like even the biggest Michael Jordan fan knows Michael Jordan is probably the cockiest man to ever walk this planet.
Mm-hmm.
It's what made him great. And I have a hard time if he's made a decision believing someone would come in and be like, okay, well, here's these advanced metrics that show that this guy is definitely the better pick. And Jordan saying, you're right, I'm wrong, we're going with what you're saying. So I just, you go back on your spiel, because I don't think you ever finished.
No, I finished it. I'm done with it. Mine was player development and drafting better. But you seem to think that stems from Jordan.
I think that has a lot to do with Jordan. I don't think it's entirely on Jordan. I just think that when you have these superstars who go into these roles, I think it stems slows the development of those players. But
I don't
Yeah,
think
if that's all you got.
I don't think it's fully
Yeah.
on Jordan.
Oh, yeah.
I'd say it's at least about 50% on him, though.
That's fair. So move